The Northtown News Magazine is brought to you in part by eVoter. eVoter is proud to be a sponsor of the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, Marty. I'm the real Marty Levinson. Keep on cutting.
Marty Levinson, my friend, it's Scott Lee Cohn, and I want you to know, while I'm cutting the waste and corruption in Illinois, I'm going to be doing it with you in mind.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson, and welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson, and welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi there, I'm the real Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with the greatest cameraman around, Sonny Hirsch, and your host, Avi Myers.
Thank you, Marty. Avi Myers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine. You can almost vote. This coming Monday, early voting starts throughout Chicago, and I think most of Chicagoland. Jewish Chicago, this is your last chance to call me now. You know, if you need something in Jewish Chicago, give me a holler. I want to thank my entire technical crew, Sonny Hirsch. Check out our website, ntnm.org, and we're going to get right down to business. Even though he's not running, he's always running around and doing something good for the county, the community, or the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. The star of our most watched video on YouTube, The Deep Tunnel, or is that Plan 9 from Outer Space? I forget which one. Terry OBrien.
Hey, Avi, how are you?
Good, Mr. President.
How you doing?
Good.
Hello, Marty. How are you? Sonny, good to see you.
So we're having these, once again, we don't have as much rain on a daily basis, but it was a rainy year this year.
Yeah.
But you got these 100-year rains, you know what, every other week?
Every week, every other week. But yeah, it's been a busy summer, Avi. We've had quite a bit of rain throughout the region, even though it was a warm summer, high humidity. July 23rd and 24th brought numerous amounts of gallons that were dumped on the county region and created some issues in relationship to flooding, not only communities and basements and other areas of the county, but you know, it was amount of rain that virtually overwhelmed the system. I mean, the system it worked, but we just had such a tremendous amount of water that fell from the skies, which totaled to the tune of over 60 billion gallons of water. And
So that's about 4 inches.
yeah, a little over 4 inches on average throughout the county, with the heaviest of it coming through the middle of the county, anywhere from 6.5 to 7.5 inches of rain. And a lot of the western suburbs were hit hard with that particular storm. We spent numerous evenings out talking to those communities on what needs to be done to prevent future basement flooding, hopefully down the road, and really pressing upon the fact that we need to start addressing our infrastructure issues, not only on a local basis or on a county basis, but on a national basis.
And by the way, my own political plug is I would have loved to have seen that be the stimulus package, is the infrastructure.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I mean, it's important. I mean, people don't want to spend money where they can't see it being spent. But I think we all realize and all feel the pain when the rains come and our basements start to flood and we lose personal items and memorabilia and things of that nature. It has a major impact.
There's a block, 2.5 blocks north of here, where all the houses are for sale cheap because the basements, you know, the paneling and the
drywall.
Yeah, the drywall. It doesn't stay very dry very long.
Yeah, well, hopefully by now they've torn all that out, and because they don't want any mold or mildew in the basements.
Now, yeah, you brought us an interesting chart, which we're going to put on the air right now.
Yeah, I brought a graphic in because one of the biggest complaints that we hear and people call us at the start of a storm is, why aren't we opening up our river locks? But I first want to tell your viewers that we have no magic valves, we have no magic gates, you know, that we open and close to prevent, you know, the flow of water. But in relationship to the graphic that you're showing on your screen, this basically shows the elevations of the lake levels and the river levels at the various the controlling gates, which one would be Wilmette, the Chicago controlling locks, and then the OBrien locks on the south side of the county.
No relation.
No relation. And what people have to remember is that the lake is higher than the river during dry weather period. And you can see that on a graphic. And we have to wait for about a 5-foot swing in elevation where the river level becomes higher than the lake level. Because if we open those gates at the beginning of a storm, what happens is we're contributing to the volumes of water that are already in the communities by emptying Lake Michigan into the river system. So that's why we don't do it, and that's why we don't do it right away. I mean, we heard a lot of things that, well, you guys didn't open the gates in time. We did open the gates in time. But when the rain continues to fall, it has very little impact. It's not until the rain subsides in a region when the river starts to draw down and we have a greater holding capacity does it have an effect. So I just want your viewers to know that we have no magic valves, no magic gates, you know, and it kind of gives you a synopsis or a picture of how the river elevation is compared to the lake elevation.
Now, a certain mayor who is exiting office talked about, and some of the other people too are talking about reversing the flow, re-reversing the flow.
Yeah, a lot of people are in the discussion on wanting to reverse the flow of the river back into the lake. I would highly not suggest that we do this unless we want to spend billions, possibly trillions of dollars dredging the bottoms of the Chicago area waterway system. There's a tremendous amount of contaminants that you'll find in that system. And, you know, the Army Corps has mentioned PCBs, heavy metals, volatile, semi-volatile organics. You'll find all those fine compounds laying on the bottom of the Chicago River system. So,
and of course,
it would just flush it right out into the lake. This is just years of sins, you know, industry, and you know, as one of the whole reasons for the reversal of the river was to draw the pollution away from the lake, because Lake Michigan is domestic use water and water supply for the residents of this region.
Yeah. Now, what's doing with all the Asian carp stuff that people are talking about?
Well,
which, by the way, used to make good gefilte in Israel.
Well, they're packing it up and sending it to China. I said, if it's a delicacy for the Chinese, I don't know why, you know, we can't eat it. You know, if it's a delicacy for them. But you know, we're working with the Army Corps of Engineers as well as a lot of the other federal agencies on this particular issue. There has been none found. The one that they said they did find near the Little Calumet River, the state figures it was placed in the river. That it wasn't there and it wasn't, you know, spawning or whatever.
So basically, they poison like 3 billion fish in order
to find out, you know, if there's any in the actual waterway system above the electronic barrier down in Romeoville. But just this last week, Congress appointed what they call a Carp czar, who is going to be working with all the cities and states on the Great Lakes to determine what impact, if any, these fish have had on the Great Lakes. And as I've said to somebody, numerous people that I've seen along the way, 1995 was the first time they were found in Lake Erie. And I said, why don't we go and look at that particular situation and see what impact that fish has had on the aquatic life in Lake Erie. My standpoint, fishing is still pretty good in Lake Erie. But
I just saw it about a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
The Air and Water Show.
And then the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, you know, they have that information. So I think that's where we need to look to see what impact, if it did get into the Great Lakes, would it have on the ecosystem?
Because actually these people are talking about things that catastrophically could close down over $1 billion worth of business.
Well, not only that from the commercial standpoint, but from our agency standpoint, it's a flood control issue. And had we not had the availability to open up the Chicago Controlling Works or Wilmette during the last storm, the city would have been flooded. You know, it would have been probably worse than what happened when the freight tunnel fractured back in, I think, 1992.
Yeah, I remember that. And the fact is, I remember when water used to, when I was a kid in South Chicago, whenever it started raining, like any kind of decent rainstorm, my dad would take us and we'd be putting all his merchandise on higher ground.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, we don't like to do it, have to do it, but sometimes we're getting these storms that dump a lot of water on the region that we have to. I mean, once the tunnel fills the capacity, our treatment system fills the capacity, our intercepting sewers, we can only store about 2.6 billion gallons of water right now.
Yeah, if God through nature decides to send down 3 or 4 inches of water, which can be 45 to 60 billion gallons of water, it's not like, oh, just stop a minute while we scratch our head and figure out what we can do with it for a while.
So
you kind of have to react.
Yeah, I mean, so the whole picture's got to be looked at, not just, you know, what one person wants to do with a particular situation. I said, yeah, look at it the whole thing and what impact it's going to have on everybody and not just one group.
Now, of course, every election cycle, there's 9 commissioners in Water Rec, and 3 new ones get elected every 2 years.
Every
It's
2
a
years.
6-year term.
Or reelected. In this
Right.
case, there's 2 of my colleagues that are on the ballot. Commissioner Barbara McGowan, who's done a great job as commissioner, head of our affirmative action committee, and
Vote early and often for
Mariana
Barb.
Spropoulos, who was just appointed to fill the vacancy of Commissioner Pat Young a year and a half ago, and she's done a great job. And then we have a gentleman, a newcomer, Michael Alvarez, who I think will do a fine job as a commissioner for the taxpayers of the county.
Yeah, Mariana was recently on the show, and I will be on the phone with Michael Alvarez to get him on. As a matter of fact, Michael, you owe me a call.
Well, when I see him, Avi, I'll tell him to give you a call.
I appreciate that because there's only one more shoot after this. So, and I'm only charging $15,000. No, everybody's on here for free.
Is that
If
for your
anything,
automatic race?
Pardon?
Is that for your automatic race?
Well, yeah, it's a lot of people suggested I run for alderman, and Terry
Is this an
was-
official announcement?
No. Terry actually said, "Well, why don't you run for alderman?" And then I scratched my head. I started thinking. I said, "Terry, do you think I have a chance to win?" And he said, "You have a nice time in Cleveland."
And you had a nice time in Cleveland.
I had a very nice time in
There you
Cleveland, and by the way, there's all kinds of interest. There are so many people running this time around. It's not even funny.
Yeah, it's. I mean, everybody's forgotten about the November election because of the mayor making his announcement that he's not going to seek re-election.
Yeah, it's
Everybody's
not even a
talking
joke.
about-
By the way, there's even an 18-year-old who's declared he's running in the 26th ward, who has friended me on Facebook.
For alderman.
He's got a very nice mohawk, it seems. I couldn't see the picture really good. And anyway, we'll see what happens. But for Water Rec, your 3 choices, and Terry knows this stuff, and I fully agree with Terry that Barbara McGowan, Mariana Spropoulos, and who's very environmentally aware. Just because I put Miracle Grow once or twice a year on my vegetables, she was hesitant to take any. It's okay, really, Mariana. And, of course, Michael Alvarez, who's the newcomer to the group.
Yeah, that could be good.
So anyway, if people want to contact you,
312-751-5700.
real good. And if Kathleen answers the phone, hi, Kathleen. How you doing? And I want to thank you very much, Terry O'Brien, president of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. Jewish Chicago, call me. You're running out of time. Last chance. Early voting starts Monday. So vote early, vote often. Thanks.
Thank you, Avi. Thanks for having me on.